Okay, I think we have just about everyone on. It's approximately 10:30 Sydney time, so let's get started. So welcome to our second in our series of webinars to give an overview of our products and services. And today is a brief snippet on HID. My name's Andrew Miller and I'm the General Manager of ISCS. I've been with ISCS for around 19 years. It's a little known fact that actually ISCS was the very first distributor of HID in Australia. We're the first direct distributor to bring it to the marketplace without having to go through some of the major installers like Honeywell and Siemens. I'm hoping to make this as informative as possible without going on too long. If you've got any questions, please feel free to insert them in the Q&A section and I'll try to answer them at the end of the presentation. But if we run out of time, we will get all the questions and answers up on our website under the webinars tab, and they'll all be listed by date. I'm conscious of people's time, so I'll keep this fairly brief. And as I say, there'll be a Q&A section at the end. I'm covering the current generation of HID readers and a migration path to get there, including which readers suit particular solutions, and also navigating the tricky world of integrating with data on card solutions, but still using HID SIO technology and security. So HID 125 kilohertz proximity was the very first hands-free prox RFIDs on the marketplace. It was brought to Australia, as I say, by ISCS, and when it was launched, it was very much a low-cost solution when compared to the solutions that were available at the time, such as the DKS and the mill keys, which used little magnets embedded in the cards. One of the really good things about HID prox was it had an excellent read range. And when I say HID prox, I'm also talking about Indala as well. So these readers were system agnostic and the first ones to be able to do that. And by that, I mean that with a weekend output, they could be connected to almost all access control panels and didn't need to be specifically designed to talk on a bus or something like that. As time progressed, though, we all know that they became quite unsecure, but as the patent expires, they became quite open to cloning, and people were being able to take advantages of that. But I will just make clear at the start that when I'm talking about proximity, there is a definition between what is known as a format and an encryption. And that will become more apparent when we talk about HID iClass and iClass SE. So when I'm talking about formats are things like 26-bit, 35-bit, corporate 1000, 34-bit. They're a bit structure, and that's the way that the card is encoded, and that's the information that's provided to the access control system. When I'm talking about encryptions, that is specifically between the card and the reader. So an encryption and the higher security levels around that are all based upon that initial handshake, if you like, between a card and a reader. An open reader is still an encrypted reader because there still needs to be a handshake to be done from there. But as technology increased, the HID iClass program was released, and the platform had a much higher security rating from there. There was an multi-class available. That meant that you could provide a upgrade path to your customers, or if you're the end user, so you could move from the old 125 forward, if you like, towards the latest technology. After a period of time, the legacy was upgraded, legacy iClass to iClass SE. One of the things that was very apparent was there was a much reduced read range. We're talking about different frequencies. 13.56 megahertz is very different to obviously the 125 kilohertz range. And people, that good solid 5, 6, 7, 8 centimeter read range suddenly became 2 centimeters. So that was an issue to get it around, but certainly it was seen as a big step forward because of the much more enhanced security. Another issue with the reader tended to be metal surfaces were not a friend. Metal surfaces provided a real issue, particularly in things like lifts and turnstiles, where that interrupted the read range of the reader even further. So using some credentials, for instance, a key fob, it made it very difficult to get any read at all. So to overcome this, HID developed the SE Express readers as well. SE Express readers had some technology built into it that was coming in later platforms as well that enabled them to work much better in metal surfaces. So around the iClass SE range, the only other issue was that there were so many different different options. So even within the different form factors, the R10, the R15, the R40, that's the mullion, the extended mullion, and the switch plate size, there were still multiple variants, if you like, within that range. So there was an R10 with OSDP, an R10 with mobile, an R10 with custom MyFair, an RP10 with OSDP, and you can see where I'm going with all of that. So there were around about, 4, 5, 6 different variants of the one reader available, if you like. Another big problem was Indala. Anytime you were working with Indala, you had no migration path to be able to move towards a mobile type solution, which I'll come to a little bit as well. All these readers were able to be configured via configuration cards. So that then gave distributors the ability to be able to change the configuration of the reader via a card. With the old technology, it wasn't really necessary because there weren't really that amount of different things you could do with the reader. But as we progressed, if we wanted to change the LED color, if we wanted to make sure that the keypad worked in a different way from its bit structures, that could all be done via configuration card, either by the distributor, your friendly ISCS office, or it could be done in the field as well. So that was really a big step forward. HID then also developed the CIOS technology as well. Now, CIOS is an application-based technology, which made things much easier in terms of moving forward. It certainly enhanced the security again. On the Andrew Miller scale of security, it went to a 9 out of 10, and certainly a very high cryptography in terms of being able to secure your credential. Based on this technology, we were able to move into the mobile field as well. So mobile phones suddenly became your credential. The application-based technology as well around CIOS also enabled you or can enable you to use in the education sector, in government, in hospitality. So that also gives you a much better field going forward from there. The latest generation of HID technology is the Signo platform, which has been released in the last 6 to 8 months. And again, it's a step forward in security. It now has integrated surface detection technology, which basically means that when it's mounted on a metal substance, whether it be within a lift car or within a turnstile, it will do a scan of its RFID field. It will then optimize its read range based around the readings from there, and you will get the best reading possible for that technology. And there is that technology in the SE Express reader, but it's been further enhanced and developed to work in the HID Signo reader. There are only currently 4 models of the Signo reader. So it's a big step forward from there. And the base model is all inclusive. So if you were to order Signo base model, it will include HID Prox, HID Indala, it will include CIOS, iClass, SIO. It has a mobile incorporated into it. It can be configured as OSDP. So that one reader now has become pretty much all encompassing. There is a CIOS version as well, where it drops off the low frequency procs. There is a smart version, which indicates that you can use MyFair CSN, etc. moving forward as well. And a custom MyFair sector as well is the latest one to join. So that has really been quite a game changer for HID, the technology moving forward. Within those readers as well, there is a base that will be great moving forward in further developments as well. So that type of development is always available there to move from that very early HID 125 technology, moving all the way through to the Signo as well. There's still hundreds of thousands of HID 125 stuff available in the field still, and that really is a security risk. So the other part of the webinar we'd just like to touch on is third-party MyFair applications and HID readers. So we probably get more inquiries regarding this than almost any other currently. And the scenario around that is a base building type situation where maybe the base building has HID readers and a tenant moves in, or even the HID, or even the base building themselves want to provide additional services to their tenants. So things, if you like, around that include lockers, they include end of trip services, or any type of data on card access control system. So by those, I'm talking about the BQTs, ICT, etc. in the lockers department, people like Lockett or Gantner. So any of those type of people there who are working with a standard MyFair card, but the base building still wants to be able to use an HID type situation. So if I maybe relate to you a typical problem that came to us fairly recently. So on the screen now is a layout of a MyFair 1K card. There are 16 sectors, as you know. Sector 0 is known as the houses the MAD key, sometimes called the administration key, but it's the MyFair application directory. That's where the keys to the castle are held, if you like. But all the other sectors are available with a key A and a key B to be able to put information into. So we had a customer come to us reasonably recently, and they were purchasing HID 3400 MyFair 1K cards. And they said, well, a customer has just requested that it be a MyFair card programmed for HID. So as you can see there, we encoded the HID SIO into sectors 4 and 5. And sector 6 in a 3400 card is HID's mechanism to ensure that the CP1000 encoder is only dealing with a genuine HID card. So that sector is locked in terms of being able to be used. That is how the CP1000 communicates with it. So we provided 300 cards to the customer, and they sent them out. And then we got the phone call saying, oh, the cards don't work. So when we delved into a little bit more, the cards actually worked fine in the access control type scenario. But what had happened was using a locker system, when they'd given the cards to the people to encode for the locker, data on card, it found that there was a clash of sectors. So what we found was, and in this case it was a Gantner solution, what we found was that Gantner were actually encoding into sectors 3 and 4, or maybe 4 and 5. So there was a clash between the sectors where the SIO was housed. The issue around that was that Gantner, and they were very easy to work with, were great in terms of providing us the information. So what we were able to do there is, using our customized in-house production, is that we were able to ask our CP1000 to not encode to the standard sectors, but we moved those, the HID SIO, into sectors 8 and 9. That then left the sectors open for Gantner to be able to use their programmer, and rather than having to completely start again, we were able to solve the problem moving forward for the customer. So when your customer, or even yourself, if you're an end user listening in on this, it's great at the beginning of the project to know what all the systems will be working. ISCS is a distributor that prides ourselves on being able to solve problems, but we would like to know all the details if possible at the beginning. So being able to change that then means a massive amount of saving of time and costs for the user. Deskfire, again, we run across the similar thing with Deskfire straight away, being able to provide that information as well. As most of you would know, Deskfire is an application-based technology. It doesn't work the same as MyFair as in terms of sectors. And I do liken Deskfire to be more like a filing cabinet, if you like. There's multiple files can be added within there, but you just need to know where they're going. So HID do use a predefined master pick key, which is similar to the MAD key on a MyFair card. But again, all this can be overcome as long as we know in advance, because there's so many people out there that are providing solutions around Deskfire. So I hope that is a very brief explanation of how we overcome those issues. So I will take some questions at the moment. They've been coming in, I notice. So I do have a question here that says, does the locking sector have to remain in sector 6 and if that is being used by someone else? Actually, that's a very good question. No, that locking key can be moved. So the HID locking key in the 3400 MyFair card, we can actually locate that to a different sector, but again, we need to know at the very beginning, and this all comes down to just planning the answers that we can give you if you give us the information at the very beginning. So Another question is PIC. What does PIC stand for in Deskfire? Okay, that's the proximity integrated circuit chip, I believe. I am by no means an expert in anything much, but no means an expert in Deskfire, but I do know that that's what a PIC can be. The same as the MAD key for MyFair is the MyFair application directory. So I'll just have a scan down through here. Good question about card migration. So if you're moving from 125 kilohertz to all the way through to maybe a Signo solution, is there a migration path? Yes, there are migration cards for pretty much everything you could imagine. So to go between Prox to iClass, from Prox to MyFair, Prox to Deskfire, Prox to CEOS, you can have combination iClass, MyFair, CEOS cards. We do provide those, quite tricky to encode sometimes with all three different technologies. But yes, that is always available. One more question, I guess. I've got a question here regarding MyFair. What if non-genuine MyFair credentials need to be used? They certainly can be used. The solution to that is that HID, if that sector 6 is not locked on a 3400 card, then, or on a MyFair card, the CP1000 encoder and the associated software identifies it as being a non-genuine HID product, which is fine, and there is just a cost involved. So we are charged for using a non-genuine credential credit, and that just adds to the price of the credential. So it's by no means stops you from doing that. It just means that there is an additional cost to be able to provide it from there. So again, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. So we're around about at the 20-minute mark, just under. I wanted to keep it to about that because I know that everybody these days is time poor. There are quite a few other questions on here that we will. Actually, I'll just grab one more. Somebody asked here about follow me printing and Omni keys. Is that a data on card type solution? Typically speaking, follow me printing doesn't work with third-party data on cards. It generally works with already encoded cards. So the HID OmniKey. We also sell a product made by RFIDs, which does use genuine HID technology as well. But the OmniKeys are more than likely, 99% of the time, going to use the encoded information or just use an embedded CSN, card serial number, a unique number, within a high frequency card. So just keeping an eye on that. So we're pretty much going to run straight on to 20 minutes. So thank you very much for attending, staying with us. I hope you've made it all the way through. I tried to make it as informative as I could. So as on the screen there, we'll be uploading that onto our website if anybody wants to just go back. But please feel free to email me or add some additional questions. Any questions we've received, we'll add to that as well. So thanks very much.